two lessons in fitness that I've learned, two mistakes that I've made, and two lessons that came out of it. Specifically, approaches that I think are so one which is so-called conventional wisdom, but is actually an overrated approach to training, and one which is actually quite effective, but is highly underrated and isn't necessarily the conventional way to go about developing your strength and fitness. And I think, like with anything, you know, whether that's the pursuit of building business or training the mind, anything really, that there's certain core golden rules that if you follow those things, that small selection, say maybe 5 golden rules, you'll probably get 95% of the way to those people who are the best in the world, you know, just by doing those things really well. And yet at the same time, there's also at an intermediate to advanced level, still pervasive confusion, I think, in all three of those areas. There's common knowledge that's wrong. There's also effective tools that aren't very well known. So for me, my fitness, I suppose I like to consider myself somewhat of an all-rounder, but I guess you can't really see this on video, but I mean, not only am I quite tall, I'm probably about 191 to 193, depending on time of day. For the Americans out there, that's about 6'2", 6'3", but I have a much longer reach. So my arms and my legs are freakishly long. So not only am I quite tall, but my reach is still disproportionately long compared to my height. So I'm a knuckle dragger basically. And this means I'm pretty good at things like deadlift. So nice long levers, smaller range of motion, but naturally not as good at things that involve pushing, like bench press. So, I mean, I train all of those things, of course, but I've often noticed that I tend to get better at deadlift easily, and I'm doing things that people don't really expect. And on bench press, people are like, come on, you can do more than that. So in a effort to improve my bench press, one of the things I set myself to do was just increase the volume generally, but also working at a lower intensity and much more often as well. So continuing with my normal routine, probably training it 3 or 4 times a week, or every other day, or 3 times a week, something like that, at varying degrees of intensity, working weights between, say, 70, 80, 85% of max, sometimes 90 plus, but generally within the 70 to 85 range. But then also set myself the challenge of roughly, I don't know, 5 times a day, probably about every time I go to the bathroom or something, doing 15 press-ups. And doing 15 press-ups on its own is quite easy for me now. I feel like I could keep going. And it doesn't necessarily feel like you're really stressing the muscle in the way that conventional wisdom tells you need to do to you know, break the muscle down and then make it sore and then build it back up again. So nonetheless, considering that when you do a press up, you're probably lifting about, I think I read you're lifting just over 50% of your body weight. 50% of your body weight is, what's that as a percentage of your max? You know, less than 50% of your max probably. So not very intense. And yet at the same time, by doing 75 reps a day for a week to maybe 3 or 4 weeks, I did find that my bench press got a lot more explosive, and it just felt a lot more comfortable, and then went on to lift the sort of 70, 80+% ranges. And so my first lesson here is that volume is underrated. And so by volume, I mean, in other words, like the total amount of weight lifted, and volume at intensity is what's relevant here, because when you climb a set of stairs, you could argue that your volume's through the roof, right? Because you just lifted like your body weight 600 times, you know, if you walk up a long flight of stairs, but it's at such a low intensity that it doesn't really count within this range. But say volume lifted between, I mean, the closer you get to that sort of 73% of max optimum, the more relevant this probably is. But anything between, say, 40 to 90 plus is probably relevant to this argument in terms of volume. And if you look at what a lot of classic sort of Western thinking says, and Western athletes and Western gym goers, many of which are just copying each other, right? It's that you got to break the muscle down, mate. You got to break it down, and then you got to eat loads of protein and build it back up again. And it's quite a sort of rudimentary way of looking at it. It's kind of bro science, really. I don't know if it's really, there is an element of that, of course. That's that's how muscles grow. But the way to make a muscle grow is not necessarily to do 3 sets of 8, or just go to absolute failure, do drop sets and have a spotter, and then just don't do it again for like a week. And if you get the chance, check out a video with Mike Mensa back in the day, training a guy called Marcus Reinhardt. And this guy Marcus is clearly a pro bodybuilder, looks the part, but he's really and no disrespect to him, because he looks great, but his strength just isn't there. You know, he's deadlifting 140 kilos, which is not a lightweight, but in my view, he looks like he should be lifting 200 plus with the kind of effort that he has to put in to lift it. And his training program is all about intensity and infrequent training until you're fully recovered. What I'm advocating here is pretty much the opposite of that. Volume is underrated. When you do a lot of lifts at a reasonably challenging volume, but you aren't burning yourself out, you're not revving your engines to the point where they just collapse and break, right? Do that, and you will notice, as counterintuitive as that may seem, much as it may seem like each rep is not like going to failure, you're just lifting it, see what happens after a couple of weeks. And so I've literally just got back from the gym myself, and the workout I did today, I did squats. That's pretty much the only weightlifting I did today, was just a really long squat session, my favorite kind of session. I probably put aside a good 45 minutes just to do squats. And usually I'd like to do a bit longer, maybe do some augmenting sort of exercises at the end, but I was short of time today. Anyway, I think I lifted between, if my maths is right, probably only starting at around, I don't know, 65% of my max and working up to maybe 75% of my max. So pretty low intensity relative to what I could lift maximum, but doing 8 sets, in fact 9 sets if you include, 10 sets if you include warm-ups. 11 if you include the bar. I don't really count the bar. I usually do 1 set with just the bar. And so I was just working between that range. The actual weight on the bar only shifted by probably around 15 kilos, but I did 8 sets, and I sort of worked up 5, and then another 2.5, then another 2.5, then another 2.5, and then down 5, and then down sort of 2.5, and then down 1.5, because I've got these half kilo weights, which allow you to hit sort of more subtle increments. And that was hard. You know, at no point did I lift more than probably 75% of my maximum weight. But I tell you what, when you taking nice long rests in between sets, and also taking nice long breaks in between, or pauses in between reps, just waiting, sure you're ready, and doing it well, executing that lift really effectively with perfect form, and just working through it and just getting it done, not rushing it. That is how you train, condition your body to get comfortable lifting weights. And so, you know, throughout the course of a week, if you're lifting 30 plus tons, maybe 40 tons, maybe if you're really advanced, maybe even 50 tons plus of weight, your body's going to be strong. And this works when you're cutting, like I'm cutting now. So in other words, I'm trying to lose body fat and hang on to the muscle and the performance and the strength that I've got. When you're lifting 40, 50 tons of weight a week, your body does not want to lose that muscle. I tell you, you don't have to be doing 3 sets of 8 to extreme intensities. You can drop the number of reps per set, maybe use a similar weight, but just do 5 reps, but then maybe do 8 sets. You know, one of the most demanding, I wouldn't just say demanding, but one of the most sort of impactful workouts I remember having in the last 6 months was where I simply did 110 kilo squats, but I did 10 sets of 5. And not only that, I had 3 minutes rest in between sets. So no one set felt especially difficult on its own, but it was just a bit of a slog, a bit of an endurance feat. And today's workout was similar, except I varied the weight a little bit more than that. But this one particular session, just try that. Try that. 10 sets of 5 with a weight that you feel like you can lift comfortably. Now, it's a very different form of working out. It feels like you're kind of going for a run or something. That's the only thing I can liken it to. It's like you're just getting it done. Just hang in there, rep by rep, set by set. I tell you what, your body will thank you for it, and your performance will go through the roof, I think, compared to people who are just simply doing, you know, sets to failure and then resting for several days and then getting pissed at the weekends. So volume is underrated. Now, I'm also currently doing the 100 challenge, which, if you've seen many of my videos on this before, it's basically 100 workouts in 50 days. And whenever I tell someone this, they go, what? Like, don't you have any need for recovery? Well, yeah, you know, recovery is needed, but recovery is overrated. If you look at what most people are doing in the gym, they're probably working at about 15 to 20% of their actual body's capacity, if you ask me. And the problem is because they're working certain times at such a high intensity, they're not able to work out again for a very long time. They're not working optimally, and they maybe like tearing the muscles, maybe not even in a healthy way, but they're neglecting the other aspect, which is this neural conditioning, which is really what the volume's about. So these are kind of two sides of the same coin. The thing with volume is it really trains the nervous system more effectively, and it's like anything. It's like if you're learning like how to dance. I'm sure I don't do ballet, but I'm sure the more you do something, the more natural it feels. It's the same with anything. It's the same with typing on a keyboard. It's the same with like cooking. It just, when you repeat a motion over and over and over and over again, it's like you're building the maps within your brain. And to do this, it helps if you're not knackering the nervous system out and the muscles out, and then you're unable to train again for 3 days or 4 days. It's much more effective to do it maybe 3 times a week. You're probably doing double the volume that you would do otherwise that way. Recovery is overrated. The trick here is to listen to the body. If you genuinely are in need of recovery, your body will let you know. And not only that, when you start getting to an intermediate level and beyond, you will start thinking about training, and you probably already are thinking about your training in a huge greater number of facets than simply like how many times a week you go to the gym or how much weight you lifted. There's a lot more to it than that. What about the different weights at different intensity or different volume at different intensities? I would have talked earlier about doing, like 500 press-ups a week, but at a low intensity, of course. But when you do 500 a week, it really does add up, and it helps you bench press. So just an example, it's not just about intensity, it's not just about volume, it's not just about duration or speed, it's about how these things all interact. And so when you feel like the need for recovery, well, hey, maybe your body is pretty tired of lifting 140 kilos for sets of 5. Maybe it'd rather just do 90 or 100 for sets of 8. Maybe do like 7 sets of 8 and just like still go through the movement, and not with a weight that's exactly light, but substantially less than what you can lift. So there's usually something you can do. And even when you're moving twice a week, going to the gym, maybe doing sort of low intensity exercise in the mornings and doing training in the evenings. So there's a distinction there between one sort of being performance specific and one being more focused on burning energy or burning fat. There's usually something that your body is not tired of doing. And this is one reason I love kettlebells. One reason I got so passionate about kettlebells when I really started to discover them, because I was like, well, I always find capacity for kettlebells. I always have sort of something left in the tank, and it works certain movements and certain capabilities of the body, which the other exercises tend not to exhaust, tend not to utilize very well. So, for example, doing a kettlebell swing, you're utilizing that triple extension, you're piling your heels into the ground. It's almost like a jumping motion. Very natural movement for your body to do. And yet, how else do we train it? Where else do we train it? How many people do you see in the gym like jumping up and down? I mean, you do see some, but they're normally sort of outcast. So kettlebells, on the other hand, well, I don't know. Maybe people have been sort of looking at me and asking questions, but hey, I don't give a shit, because kettlebells work and they burn fat and they improve your performance. They are an absolute like wild card when it comes to training. Get yourself a kettlebell if you haven't already. So there you go, guys. Recovery is overrated. Volume is underrated. Incorporate those 2 tips into your training program, and I'm sure you'll see some killer results. That's all from me, guys. I shall chat to you tomorrow.